be marching for the NHS on February the 3rd, which is very timely for me because it's actually the anniversary of one of the biggest nurses' strikes organised by grassroots nurses that occurred in February the 3rd, 1988.
I was a staff nurse at the Royal Free, and I saw on television and read in national papers about 38 Manchester night nurses that had gone on strike. They were in my union, Newpie. They'd walked out on strike one night because they were going to get their own social hours taken away, and they won. And I remember saying to a couple of my colleagues and friends, do you think we could ever go on strike? And it sort of unleashed a discontent, a bubbling worry and anger about the state of the NHS.
Even now, 20 years later, people will still come up to us and say, that was the best month of my life. I was out with a friend just a couple of weeks ago and I hadn't seen her for ages, and she said, I loved that 1988 strike. I loved that strike. My family loved it. Their kids still talk about the picket lines. And they were fun to do.
We called a meeting initially of activists from 5 central London hospitals, and then we began to organise, and the strikes themselves were organised by open meetings in the hospitals, usually in the nurses' home or wherever, leafleting the wards and the residential accommodation. And on the day itself, it was actually 40 hospitals came out on February the 3rd. From not just in London, from Sheffield, Bristol, Southampton, other places came out as well.
We asked the police, could we protest in Trafalgar Square, and they told us it's illegal to march on Parliament while Parliament's sitting. And that stumped us a little, and then we looked at each other in this quite small meeting and said, let's do it anyway. And on the day of the strike, I had a letter for Margaret Thatcher, I think maybe printed and with handwritten signatures, in my bag, and as part of the demonstration we were going to deliver this to Whitehall, and I have a vivid memory of running down the street to Whitehall with some of the people from the protest, with loads of coppers chasing me. Somebody asked me the other day what happened to the letter. I think a policeman took it from me, but it's probably one of the best memories of my life, and scary and powerful at the same time.
The solidarity we had was unbelievable. Everywhere we went, people offered support for us. So we went to other trade unions, we went to other hospital workers. We sent 3 people down to London at one point to go around some of the hospitals and other trade unions in London. And just on the train, they went right through the train with their buckets and collected £500.
There were delegations of dockers from Tilbury, miners from Kent, and that was because actually the union there in the hospital, Newpie branch, had a history of giving solidarity to these other groups of workers.
They felt under significant pressure over NHS pay, and they then brought in a nurse regrading package in order to try and buy off the nurses out of the dispute. Well, when we began to get the results of regrading through, and we realised that some of us had done really well and some of us had done really badly, we'd called more meetings, and we ended up saying the only way to resolve this is to go out on strike. So we met again a week later, voted again, hands up, unanimous in the canteen, to go out on strike, and the next day we walked out on strike.
We had what was historically the biggest pay rise that nurses had ever had up to that time. And it demonstrated that if you take action, you will actually secure, real change, real pay increases.
People in my hospital went on the first the demonstration called a year ago for the NHS, and for lots of these nurses, it was their first protest. And they were fantastic. They brought their homemade placards, their banners. They feel angry, and they love the fact there is an outlet for them to express that. I think people say sometimes it's a slogan, but it's absolutely true. If we want to protect our NHS, we need to kick the Tories out. Health workers out on the street protesting is a really good start to getting rid of the Tories.